Hey guys, 98 Sports Talk here with my outlook for Georgia in the 2018 season. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think down in the comment section down below if you think I'm right on the money or if I missed anything for Georgia in the 2018 season. Well, let's get into this. Last season in 2017, Georgia obviously had an incredible season, won the SEC, was, a couple plays away from potentially winning a national championship game. So lots of momentum, lots of good things going on in Athens. Recruiting wise, Kirby Smart brought in the #1 class for the 2018 recruiting cycle and either has the #1 class or the #2 class for 2019. So all things, again, pointing north for Georgia. Lots of momentum, a lot of good things happening there. A couple big name recruits were Justin Fields, big time quarterback, Zamir White, the big time running back, and overall Georgia brought in 7 5-stars, which has never been done in the history of the 24/7 rankings. So it was just an amazing class recruiting wise. Now, offensively, what do I think is going to happen in the 2018 season? I think offensively, overall, I think Georgia's actually going to make a slight improvement offensively. Taking a look at it, kind of breaking down position by position, Jake Fromm is obviously going to come back, and to me, he's the starter pretty easy there. Some people think Justin Fields might get on the field, but I don't think so. He's going to be a true freshman, and he's going to have to learn the system before he's going to take over for a quarterback that took Georgia to the national championship game. Fields is supposed to be an incredible quarterback, but I do think it's going to take some time for him to get on the field. Down the road, I can envision him splitting time with Fromm because he is supposed to be that good. But for the most part in 2018, I think you're going to see Jake Fromm at the helm. Running backs, obviously Georgia lost Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. And, how do you replace guys like that? Well, apparently if you're Georgia, it's no problem. You got DeAndre Swift, Brian Harrington coming back, Elijah Holyfield, the freshman, Zamir White, if he can come back from that ACL, maybe at the end of the season. And also James Cook, another freshman that Georgia signed. So will Georgia be a little bit worse on the running, at the running back position? I think you probably have to say yes, just because you lose, Sony and Nick Chubb there. But realistically, I don't think you're going to see a big drop off in production because Georgia is just running back and they just keep turning out running back after running back. So I really, while I've got to, being realistic, I've got to say the running back slots will take a slight downturn. It's not going to take a big hit. At wideouts, Georgia loses Javon Wims, but I think overall the wide receiver position probably will be a little bit better. On the offensive line, Georgia loses Wynn on the offensive line. He was the only senior, and I do think that offensive line is going to take a step up and be a little bit better. So overall, I think the offense is going to be better, where only the running backs, I think, again, can take a slight downturn, but realistically, Georgia's going to be really good at the running back position and probably has 3 to 4 guys that would start for most teams in the country. So overall, I've got to say the offense is going to see an improvement. Defensively, Georgia loses a bunch of starters and has to replace Roquan Smith at the middle linebacker position. Roquan won the Butkus Award for the best linebacker in the nation. He's obviously a complete stud. He's going to be probably a top 10 pick in the NFL. So I think Georgia might take a slight step back defensively, but Kirby Smart's done a really good job of recruiting over the past couple seasons. Some possible replacements for Roquan Smith would be Natrez Patrick, depending on his eligibility, whether he comes back. He got in a little bit of trouble last season. Another guy could be Monty Rice for the Bulldogs that takes over that spot. But some big-time recruits coming in, Channing Tindall, Brenton Cox, Quay Walker. All these guys are at the linebacker spot. So, Georgia, will they take a big step back at linebacker? I don't think so. You don't replace a Roquan Smith, but Georgia's got plenty of talent at that linebacker position. Up front, defensively, on the defensive line, I think Georgia takes a slight step back there as well, losing guys like, Bellamy and Lorenzo Carter. But again, Georgia's still got a lot of talent. In the secondary, I think it'll be about the same. Tyson Campbell is a 5-star cornerback that may come in and start this season for the Bulldogs. We'll see. So I think the secondary is going to be about the same. So overall, I think Georgia's going to take a slight step back defensively. But as I said, overall, when you consider the offense and defense, I think offense is going to take a slight step forward. Defensively, slight step back. Basically, I think Georgia will have about the same kind of overall team as far as are they getting better or worse from last season. I think Georgia's going to have about the same team when you look at it overall. Schedule. So let's get into the schedule here. Georgia starts out with Austin Peay. It's just a cupcake. That's going to be a win. Then goes on the road at South Carolina, then another cupcake, then at Missouri. I think South Carolina is going to be a tough game, but I do think the Bulldogs win that one, and I think the Bulldogs will win the rest of those games I mentioned. Then they play Tennessee at home, Vandy at home. I think both of those are wins. Then they go on the road to LSU. I think if LSU could find a quarterback, I think that might be, maybe a toss-up game there. But I think Georgia wins just due to the fact that LSU just can't seem to find a quarterback. Next game is Florida. That game's always played in Jacksonville. That's going to be a tough game because it's a rivalry game. Even though Georgia won big last season, you can't ever count in a rivalry game that one team's going to blow the other one out. So I think it'll be a tough game. But I do think Georgia's going to win this one. I just don't, Florida is not there just yet. Next game is going to be at Kentucky, followed by a game at home against Auburn, which Auburn, I do think that's going to be the toughest game for the Bulldogs next season. Last season, Georgia had, 2 games against Auburn, went into Auburn and got kind of blown out there. Then kind of blew Auburn out in the SEC championship in that revenge game to win the SEC. And then at the end of the last 2 games, Georgia plays UMass. Didn't even know UMass had a football team, so Georgia should win that one pretty easy. And then ends the season with Georgia Tech. So realistically, Georgia could go undefeated in the regular season. Do I think they will? I'd say 50-50. The 2 games that scare me the most as a Georgia fan are the Auburn game and the Florida game. But like I said, I think Florida's got a pretty darn good chance of winning the game in Jacksonville against Florida. And Georgia's got Auburn at home this time, I actually think Georgia will win this game because I think Kirby Smart will have them motivated. He won't want to have any hiccups. By that time, and again, I think Georgia will be undefeated. I think they won't want to have any hiccups heading into a potential playoff. So I actually think Georgia will go undefeated in the regular season and head into the SEC championship game against, probably Alabama from the West. And, the winner of that will obviously go into the playoffs. So I think everything is looking good for Georgia from a recruiting standpoint, on the field standpoint, all trends point towards good things happening in Athens. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Do you think Georgia can wrap up the regular season undefeated next season? I do. If you haven't subscribed, smash that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.